Hey everyone, it's a rainy day here in Chicago. I'm outside waiting for a wedding to get started. It's wedding season. Last year, my wife and I went to 8 weddings, and this year, I think we're planning to do four. We've already been to one. This will be number two. So it's been a crazy couple of years of weddings. But, anyways, I have a moment here before we get started. I had to get here nice and early because my wife canters for many of our family weddings, and she's a really good singer. So that's a one negative of that is we have to show up very early to things, or at least I do, because we only have one car right now, so it's not as easy to get around. Anyways, I just wanted to talk about opportunities and how to approach them, because Emily and I, my wife, we are trying to figure out what to do next since she's finishing her school. She's going through interviews and everything right now, trying to find good opportunities, and she's gotten some really good offers to this point. So we're trying to figure out what to do because we're looking at multiple markets right now. So not just in Chicago, but also in Houston, and she's got some really good offers in Houston. So we're leaning pretty heavily towards them right now. I'm looking through the process of getting my Texas bar license and all that sort of stuff, and so I'd be able to practice law in Texas. I'd probably still be coming back up to Chicago if we did that. We're still working out the details, but anyways, I'll save that for a later video, whatever we end up doing. But it does raise the issue of how to weigh different opportunities because every decision has a cost. The decision to stay in a particular area for a job has a cost. The decision to go somewhere else has a particular cost. Everything is a trade-off. So trying to weigh what the best opportunity is for you now. And in this environment with the stagflationary sort of vibe we have going on right now, lots of inflation, there's a lot of pressure, potentially more pressure than normal, to try and take advantage of opportunities now rather than waiting for better ones to come, is kind of what I'm getting at. If there's a really good opportunity we could do now, it seems like it would make a lot of sense to go for it and then figure out the rest later. And then if there is a better decision that comes after that, then okay, you pivot from there. That's one of the nice things about at least being in the U.S. is there's a lot of things you can do. You can move around within the country. You can move around within your state. You have states competing with each other for different opportunities or for different sort of benefits and perks. So we as citizens can move around more easily than maybe some other countries. Granted, there's always sort of caveats and different growing pains or moving pains depending on what's going on. Obviously, we have a bunch of family up here, so if we were to leave Chicago, that has a cost. And we're trying to mitigate that cost in the meantime, also trying to get whatever benefit it is from the reason we're moving there in the first place. Obviously, you have taxes. You have the job itself that might not exist in another place. So lots of different considerations. But I would say this, that especially while we're young, I think it makes a lot more sense to go for those great opportunities if they seem great. And if they aren't great, it's a lot easier to just kind of undo, just say, okay, this opportunity sucked. We'll move on to the next thing. We'll come back to where we are a little bit more certain about where things are. Or maybe you go to a different place after that. But things are reversible for the most part. Sure, maybe you spend a year or two and it ends up being a bad experience, but maybe you learn something out of it. You certainly learn what not to do and that you don't like a particular thing. If we were to move to Houston, for example, if we decide that it's terrible, then, oh, okay, we move back to Chicago. It shouldn't be that difficult since we're focusing on remaining employable. We're trying to build our skills. My wife is an audiologist or is about to become one, so she's building that skill. I'm an attorney, so I'm building that skill. And then many other skills around that. Just trying to remain marketable to where if we needed to pivot for some reason, it would be a lot easier than if we had more limited skills or if we weren't growing for whatever reason. So just trying to remain employable is how I kind of look at it. When you're employable, you have a lot more options. You can move around. And of course, running your own business is a helpful way to do that too. If you can basically determine your own destiny more so than if you're working for someone else, that's also helpful, though not necessary depending on what's going on. And this is where trying to build extra income streams can be super important too, in that you have less financial pressure. We have our about $1,100 a month in cash flow coming in per month from our rental properties, and that's a nice little insurance policy. It gives us some room for trying things out, maybe taking risks somewhere. Maybe just if something doesn't work out, we know, hey, we have this $1,000 a month. Yeah, it's not some grand income, but that's something, and that could definitely sort of weather the storm for a bit while we're tapping into maybe an emergency fund, if it really came down to something like that. Or if we just wanted to say, hey, there's this cool opportunity over here, and it might mean that we lose a month or two of income. It's not as big of a deal because we have some of that investment income coming in. So looking at it that way, again, everything's a trade-off. So everything has an opportunity cost, and a dollar made now is worth a lot more than a dollar made 30 years from now, because you can invest it, you can grow it, and all that great stuff. Time value of money, I don't need to lecture on that. But anyways, I think it makes sense to really look closely at the opportunities in front of you, probably at any time, but I think especially now, as there's a looming sort of concern with the economy, with potentially the job market, and there's lots of concerns there. So being able to choose your own destiny a bit more maybe than the past is going to be really, really important, I think. And if you have a great opportunity in front of you, go ahead and take it, because the worst that could happen is it sucks, and then you have to move on, and you just go to the next thing. So whatever wisdom that is, whatever you want to make out of that, yeah, that's it. I should probably get heading into the wedding right now. It's a nice rainy day here in Chicago. If we move to Houston, it'll probably be rainy even more, and it'll be certainly a lot hotter. So, that's another thing I should have mentioned with opportunities. There's also the weather and happiness opportunity as well. That's another thing to weigh too. Even if you have two different places or two different opportunities that maybe pay the same, think of all the other factors there too. How happy are you going to be in one place? What's the sort of long-term trajectory look like for the place? Lots of different considerations to make. But just kind of wanted to put that out there, and thinking about weighing decisions in a not formulaic way, but also being ready to pull the trigger on those opportunities that could really move the needle for you in the short and long term. So just always keeping an eye out on things and not getting content with your current situations. Even if it is really good, there's always something to improve. Not that you have to go crazy with it. If something is really good that you're doing now, stick with it and maybe look for ways to improve it sort of in other ways, rather than just, burning the whole thing down and starting afresh. So yeah, I should probably head on in. I've been in the parking lot for like 45 minutes, so it's about time I went on in, but it's so bad out. I was kind of waiting for the rain to stop, and it never did. So wish me luck, I suppose. Otherwise, if you guys like this video, definitely like it. It's obviously more of an impromptu video, no script, just started spitballing a bit. So I apologize if anything was incoherent. But if you guys got any value out of it, definitely love to get your perspective in the comments below. What do you think about how to weigh different opportunities? Are you focusing more on finances, lifestyle, whatever it is? Again, everything's a trade-off. So love to get your perspective in the comments. Subscribe if I didn't say that already. Check out the affiliate links in the description below. It helps the channel out a lot, and you can get some free stuff while you're there. So check that out. Otherwise, until next time, take care.